The story begins in the clouds, where Ryo Mihara is informed by an angel that he has passed away in an accident. He understands that he's being reincarnated but wonders what he's supposed to do in his new life. The angel tells him he can live however he pleases. There's no mission or special agenda assigned to him, but still, Ryo questions if he's just meant to live freely. He learns that the world he's reincarnated into is filled with magic. It's called Phi, and in this world around 20% of humans can use magic. His most compatible element is water. Since he requested a slow life, he'll be reincarnated in the forest of Rondo. A house and 2 months worth of food will be waiting for him. No party, no mentor, no plan, just a dude and his water spells. Upon arrival, Ryo is surprised to see an ice house for storing food, which must be magic. His house has a protective field that keeps monsters away, something like a barrier. He finds a monster compendium, beginner edition, and a flora compendium, and even though he's never seen the language, he can read them. He tries casting a spell by saying, "Water, come forth," and a ball of water appears. He figures he might not need to vocalize spells, imagination might be enough. Still, he thinks incantations are cool. Alone in the forest, still more peaceful than group projects. The water he conjures is tepid, too bad. He was hoping to enjoy a warm bath. The next day, under the sun, he tries learning a new spell. He attempts to freeze water but finds it harder than expected. He wants to create something like an ice spear. Focusing on the H2O molecules, he visualizes hydrogen bonds forming, and soon, the water starts freezing. He then uses a magnifying glass and sunlight to shape it, successfully producing ice. That night, Ryo relaxes. It's been a productive first day. He thinks he could probably use the same logic to make hot water. Magic really does make life easier. Tomorrow, there's plenty more to do. He remembers Michael left him 2 months of food, meaning he'll eventually need to start hunting. The woods beyond the barrier are filled with monsters. A single knife won't be enough. He'll need offensive magic. To secure his peaceful life, he better start training. Practice makes a man perfect. He heads to an open field and casts Water Ball, his first attack spell. It's not very strong, which is disappointing but expected. Still, he has an idea. If Water Ball isn't enough, he'll try Water Jet. He imagines a high-pressure, narrow stream, but his first try fails. He recalls asking Michael how to use magic, and Michael told him that imagination is the foundation. Visualize clearly and work toward it over time. He keeps trying, and finally, it starts to look better. Encouraged, he figures he can reverse the ice process to make hot water, and it works. The next morning, Ryo is practicing creating ice out of thin air. It forms slowly, but it's possible. His goal? A proper offensive spell called Icicle Lance. It's harder to cast than water spells with limited range and power, so he doubts its combat effectiveness. Still, practice makes perfect, and he trains until he nearly passes out. Must be mana depletion. After intense training, he manages to instantly cast Icicle Lance, though it still lacks projectile force. Now it's time to venture outside the barrier. He enters the deep forest, peaceful and quiet. He finds a quartz crystal along the riverbank, which good for starting fires after sunset. He picks detox herbs and considers the day a success, trying to live slow, but Phi said boss fight on day 1. Suddenly, a lesser boar appears, which his first monster encounter is. He asks for peace. The world gave me wild boars and weather magic. It charges, and Ryo falls to the side. He can't move, but he has magic. He casts Ice Bond to trip it, then finishes it with 16 icicle lances. Breathing heavily, he sees that he's won. That night, sitting by the fire, he reads the compendium and learns that lesser boars are the weakest type, so are Bay. Still, he's unsettled. He flips to the final pages of the special edition content. Dragons are next, creatures capable of destroying entire cities. There's a note if you ever see one, run, though escaping is unlikely. Then there's the Akuma, that is not fallen angels, but unknown beings. The page ends with a prayer that the reader never encounters one. He sighs. This world is huge. Later, Ryo goes into the forest naked to pick fruit, wandering like Mowgli. Like Mowgli learning to survive without human help, Ryo navigates the harsh world of entertainment and exploitation alone. Suddenly, an assassin hawk attacks. He runs, knowing its main attack is air slash and sharp swoops. He tries ice magic, but the hawk dodges everything. Finally, he shields himself in ice. One of the hawk's eyes gets injured and it flies away, temporarily defeated. Ryo collapses, thinking this slow life is way harder than expected. He gets lost while running from the hawk and stumbles upon a man and a beast by the river. He kills a snake with magic and catches fish. With time, he gets better at water magic. He uses abrasive magic to slice a cliff in half. Realizing he can harden ice to act like a garnet blasting tool, he feels like he's finally getting the hang of it. One night, under a glowing moon, he encounters a Dullahan not mentioned in the beginner's compendium. Maybe it's too advanced. They fight intensely and Ryo collapses. He knows he can't win yet, but he keeps coming back. It's like the Dullahan is training him. Then the Dullahan reveals a water sword. Ryo is stunned. The Dullahan offers it to him. He's being told to master it. Ryo accepts the sword as it is the deadly generosity wrapped in steel and silence. After gifting him the sword, the Dullahan disappears. The next day, he sees another assassin hawk, much darker than before. He wonders if it could have evolved. The hawk attacks. Ryo forms a 5-layer ice wall, dodging as best as he can. Then he creates a 10-layer wall, but the hawk smashes through it. It fires a massive thunder attack from its mouth. Ryo strikes with the water sword and injures the hawk. Realizing the sword's true power, power, Ryo continues the assault. He finally defeats the hawk. He understands now it came back to avenge its eye, but also out of respect. They both gave their all. In a way, the hawk helped him grow. He draws his sword from its throat and moves to another part of the forest where he meets a talking dragon. He's shocked that the dragon uses telepathy, though it hasn't in a long time. The dragon uses telepathy because roaring is so last century. The dragon asks Ryo if he's seen a bird that evolved from an assassin hawk. Ryo admits he killed it. The dragon sees Ryo's sword and recognizes it. It's the sword of the fairy king. That must mean Ryo earned his favor. Ryo has questions, but the dragon says he's being called away. He enjoyed their chat, but he has to go. Ryo tells him his name, and the dragon introduces himself as Lewin before flying off. Ryo never thought he'd talk to a dragon, but in this world, anything is possible. Meanwhile, Michael realizes he overlooked something. He sees that Ryo has a hidden trait: eternal youth. No one has had that trait since the girl he sent to another world 10,000 years ago. The storm came early, right after that entrance. In the middle of a heavy rainstorm, a man lies unconscious. Slowly, he opens his eyes and wonders if he survived. He sees his clothes neatly folded beside him. Getting up, he walks out of the room. Outside the door, he finds himself surrounded by greenery. Confused, he asks himself where he is, when suddenly a voice calls out, "It's Ryo!" cheerfully greeting him and relieved that he made it through. The man is stunned, still unsure of what's going on. Looking at Ryo's unusual attire, he wonders if Ryo owns anything else to wear, but quickly realizes that probably shouldn't be the first thing he says. He introduces himself as Abel and thanks Ryo for saving his life, but Ryo insists there's no need for thanks because he only brought Abel home. He also informs Abel that he was the only survivor. The rest of the group didn't make it. Abel doesn't seem too shaken, they were just smugglers after all. Suddenly, his stomach growls loud enough to shake the trees. When the hunger hits harder than the tragedy, Ryo properly introduces himself. Abel, looking around, asks if Ryo has any spare clothes. But without fabric or thread, Ryo says, he can't exactly sew new ones. Abel realizes he's broke as he has no money, no supplies, not even basics. It's like when fashion sense exists, but fabric doesn't. Ryo explains that there aren't even any nearby settlements or people. Abel realizes Ryo is like a fierce heart and an empty closet. Abel notices some food clearly hunted and a knife nearby. He asks if Ryo used that knife, but Ryo says it's mainly for finishing prey. His real hunting tool is water magic. Abel is impressed. He tells Ryo that even in the central provinces, only about half the population can use magic. Ryo recalls that Michael told him only about 20% can use it in Phi. Abel then asks to be shown the coastline. He wants to confirm something. As they walk, he assumes Ryo must have lost everything and been forced into this rugged lifestyle. Abel offers to take the front line if trouble arises, but Ryo initially refuses. Abel insists that he doesn't want to be the guy who always gets saved. That would ruin his reputation. Abel fears that his hero status slowly turning into sidekick status. Ryo agrees to stay back. When they reach the shore, all the bodies are gone, maybe eaten or just washed out to sea. Looks like they missed their funeral by high tide. Abel knows he would have ended up like them if Ryo hadn't saved him. He explores the wrecked boat, while Ryo continues calling him Mr. Abel. Abel protests that his lifesaver can be so formal. He tells him to just call him Abel. Ryo agrees and Abel smiles. He's happy to be addressed normally. Abel fails to find what he was searching for in the boat. Ryo asks about his next move. Abel decides to try rendezvousing with his companions, starting with the town of Loon, but he thinks he's been swept far south. Unsure of his location, he asks Ryo to act as a guide. Ryo agrees. As they set off, Ryo takes a moment that night to say goodbye to someone. Abel thought Ryo said no one lived nearby. Maybe he's paying respects. Ryo visits the Dullahan and tells him he'll be away from the forest of Rondo for a while. He thanks him and requests one final spar, promising to give it his all. After an intense bout, Ryo is left panting. The Dullahan responds by creating a massive water ball that transforms into a flowing cape. Ryo accepts it with gratitude. Instant upgrade, from magician to mysterious hero. The next morning, he wears the cape with pride. Draped in style, ready to steal every scene, their journey begins. On the way, they encounter a wild boar. Abel swiftly slays it using combat skills. Ryo, unfamiliar with the concept, asks about it. Abel explains. That night, they camp out peacefully under the stars. The next morning, their journey continues. They spot a group of lizard folk. Ryo senses danger and kills them using icicle lance of level 4. Afterward, he magically crafts a cup of water and hands it to Abel, hydrated by elemental hydration. They continue walking. Abel shows Ryo a bronze florin, currency from the kingdom of Nightly where Loon is located. Ryo's never seen it. Abel explains that each province mints its coins, but they all follow the same denominations. Nightly is one of the 3 major powers, along with the Dabuhi Empire and the Handaloo Federation. Ryo finds Dabuhi a weird name. Suddenly, Abel hears stone shifting. Ryo quickly erects an ice wall, but they're surrounded. They'd wandered into a rock golem nest. Abel runs in with combat skills, but the golems regenerate. Ryo casts a 10-layer ice wall. It holds them off well. The final golem drops a large, vivid magic stone. Ryo hopes to collect more, but the others have already crumbled. Moving on, they see a massive hippo-like creature. Abel calls it a behemoth. From another direction, wyverns appear. Looks like they scored front row seats to a monster battle. The wyverns strike, but the behemoth shrugs off their attacks and annihilates them using magic negation. That night, they sit by the fire. Abel mentions traps and dungeons with similar magic nullifying effects. Ryo's eyes light up. He wants to explore a dungeon one day. Abel admits there's one in Looney, the town they're headed to, but didn't mention it earlier since he didn't know Ryo was into that sort of thing. They discuss dwarves and elves. Dwarves are mastersmiths and fierce fighters. Loon has a few. Elves mostly keep to their forest settlements. Ryo imagined them just like that. The two talk the whole night. The next day, they approach the mountains. Ryo predicts they're nearing human territory. Abel wonders where Ryo's getting this intel. Secretly, Ryo remembers what Lewin the talking dragon told him, that the land is surrounded by sea on 3 sides and mountains to the north, acting as a natural barrier. Ryo doesn't mention Lewin, brushing it off as a source beyond human understanding. Suddenly, a shadow appears above. A massive eagle stares down at them. Abel is drenched in sweat, frozen in fear. Ryo quickly tosses meat into the air. The eagle grabs it and flies off. Ryo breathes a sigh of relief. Abel, still shaken, notes that humans aren't built to fight beasts like that, and no one's seen behemoths or griffins for centuries. He suspects something's off about this place. Ryo thinks humans just haven't tried hard enough. Maybe the mountains kept the beasts out, but something brought them here, possibly someone. Soon they come upon a nest of wyverns. Abel warns that wyverns are far too much for the two of them. Normally, it takes a party of 20 seasoned adventurers, casualties included. Wyvern expected an army, got a dynamic duo instead. Even so, Ryo thinks avoiding a fight isn't possible. He asks if grounding them would make them easier to deal with. Abel agrees. Ryo casts an ice spear spell, raining frozen death from above and pinning the wyverns to the ground. Abel charges in and activates his combat skill known as Total Impalement. The combo wipes out the entire flock. Wyverns wanted 20, got 2, regretted everything. Abel harvests the magic stones. Turns out that was easier than expected. Abel wonders if they should be worried. Ryo turns to Abel and says to him that he prefers near-death battles to get his blood pumping. He is out here chasing boss fights for the adrenaline. Abel groans and tells him to stick to the plan. Ryo agrees, so long as Abel's up for it. Abel stares at the remaining wyvern flock. They will have to take them all down. They are not done yet. Time to clear the whole raid. Their journey resumes. Another peaceful day, and through it all, they're still together.